This program was brought to you by Organo Gold. Organo Gold is a health and wellness company that provides healthy coffees, teas, and chocolate. All one has to do is consume the available products to get all the available benefits. One can also share these products with others to help them improve their health as well. For more information, call 703-359-5642 or visit the website basillemba.com.
And now, Fairfax Breakfast Club with your host, Basil Lemba.
Welcome to the Fairfax Breakfast Club show. My name is Basil Lemba and I will be your host. The Fairfax Breakfast Club is a weekly program in which we bring to you valuable and workable know-how you can use to improve your networking skills and grow your business. We always start the show with a quote, and today's quote is, "And God said, let be light, and there was light. But the electricity board said it would have to wait until Thursday to be connected." And that is from Spark Milligan. With us today in the studio, we have someone whose company helps connect that electricity, maybe sooner than Thursday. From Dominion Power, our guest is Mr. Charles Penn. Hello, Charles.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me.
My pleasure. I think you like the quote.
That was very good. We want to get the power back on, like right. In fact, we don't want it to go off at all.
Okay, very good. So tell us briefly about Dominion Power.
Well, Dominion is a very large organization, and I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you, just how many employees we have. Mm-hmm. We're in multiple states. Mm-hmm. We are an energy company in that we're not just an electric utility, mm-hmm. but we're also involved in natural gas. For example, in Ohio and Pennsylvania, we've got a very robust natural gas operation that involves pipelines, mm-hmm. the building and constructing and laying down of pipeline to transport gas. We store natural gas mm-hmm. in the ground that generally is brought out on really cold days or cold periods like now, mm-hmm. or during the heat of the summer. And we also process gas. We'll take producer's gas mm-hmm. and we'll extract all of the various components that are in it mm-hmm. that can give you pentane, isobutane, propane, and all the constituents, some of which are more valuable than the methane, the natural gas that's there. Mm-hmm. We extract it out, and those types of materials are used in the plastics industry primarily, but we're involved in, of course, nuclear power. We've got a number of nuclear power stations, mm-hmm. Two of which are here mm-hmm. in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We've got another one in Millstone in Connecticut, mm-hmm. and we are selling and have actually closed down one in Green Bay. So we're involved in wind and solar and you name it. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very diverse energy company.
Okay, very good. Okay. I guess most people do not know about it. They just know it as a power company.
Well, electricity is the kind of thing that you don't notice anything about it until it's not there. and one of the things that we know, mm-hmm. And generally when we have problems is during natural disaster storms. I've lived through Hurricane Isabel, for example, which was our worst natural disaster from our standpoint, because mm-hmm. we had 14 consecutive days of some of our customers not having power. Wow. In fact, we lost 88% of our customer base due to that. And what I've discovered...
How so? What do you mean by lost it?
Well, what I mean by that is they lost power. Oh. The wind that came in with that storm, it's safe to say that anything in terms of wind speed above 35 miles per hour mm-hmm. sustained, and certainly we start getting in the 50s and 60s, mm-hmm. and of course hurricane force is right at 75 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. What happens then is it causes trees to come down, or tree limbs to come in contact with your line, mm-hmm. and it totally just disrupts and wreaks havoc on your system. And so we had 14 consecutive days of outages, and what I've discovered is people are generally very understanding when it comes to losing their power. They know that anything that man makes at one time or another is going to expire. So it's not like they don't understand. And that understanding lasts for about 2 days. And on that third day, in fact, I can remember during Hurricane Isabel, one of my colleagues receiving a call from the then mayor of Virginia Beach. And her message that she left him on his voicemail went something like, it's the Lord created heaven and earth in 7 days. And went on to say, now, if the Lord could do that, then why is my power not on? Which I never forgot that Mayor Oberdorf said that. But we understand what it's like to lose power, and we understand what it does to people. What it just totally disrupts the continuity of your life. You can't plan anything. You know, you're literally powerless. And in fact, there hasn't been any storm of any consequence that I've been through in my 12 plus years I've been with Dominion where we haven't had field personnel out and about restoring power when they did not have power in their own homes. And I know how I get. If I lose, my cable or something like that, I'm really not a very pleasant person. It's human nature. So you will never hear me, and hopefully you'll never hear anyone that works for Dominion ever have anything negative to say about the reaction that we get from irate customers when they lose power. It is very, very, very disconcerting to lose your power. And so that's the reason why we are out and about. In fact, I just relocated here from West Virginia on the gas side of the business, having spent 9 years prior in the Tidewater region out of Norfolk on the electric side. And the times that I came in when I was gone was during the derecho and during Superstorm Sandy.
Gotcha.
Because when the power goes out, everybody works. And I've never had a problem with that. I've always been very pleasant and enjoy doing that work, because I know that when I lose my service, I want everyone and his brother on the job. I mean, people should have come to expect that. And thankfully, I work for a company that gets it, that we're going to do everything we possibly can, work as long as we can, as safely as we can, to get everybody back to normal so they can have a sense of normalcy in their life.
Very good. So now, all right, I get that. What do we're going through cold times here, and recently we have had power losses here and there. What could you tell to the audience and the business people in order to prepare or deal with it to the best way possible?
Well, that's a very good question, because we are living that as we speak. When you have sub-zero temperatures, and generally cold impacts our circuit in such a way that there are so many people drawing on the circuit. Dominion is part of PJM, which it's an acronym for, actually start out as Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, but it actually is 13 state plus the District of Columbia regional grid. And there is a organization that oversees that grid and monitors the amount of capacity that the grid has and in relationship to the amount of draw that's on it. And if you look at it strictly from Dominion's standpoint, it's the same thing, only you're looking at us exclusively. And so what happens when it gets real cold like it is right now, or real hot in the summer, we come home from work and we crank up that AC.
Okay.
And there's peak times. For example, now in the cold, between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. is a peak period. That's when people are getting up in the morning, getting ready to go to work, they start their business at home, and there's a tremendous draw on the system. When we get home from work during this time, usually between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m., that's that other peak load. A huge amount of energy is being drawn out of that system, which is the reason why we'll sometimes come out and ask customers to consider running your washer and dryer, all the things that draw a lot that you normally consider doing it in an off period time, either early in the morning or in the evening, because then you don't have everyone pulling on at the same time. So that's an issue with us. But generally, we have the capacity to meet the demand. What's problematic for us in terms of reliability is ice. Whenever ice gets on our lines around a quarter of an inch or in excess of a quarter of an inch, bad news, because it brings down tree limbs. Can bring down the weight, can actually weigh and bring lines together, cause outages and that sort of thing. So ice is a problem, and wind, as I mentioned before, is particularly problematic for us. But cold is only problematic in that it creates a tremendous amount of demand for the capacity that you have.
And so what the suggestion would be for people then to use the off time?
Yes.
For, I guess, washer and dryer. What else?
Washer and dryer, anything that would, your dishwasher, things like that.
Okay.
But you know what?
Ironing, maybe?
Ironing?
I don't know.
Well, I guess, Well, it really what it comes down to is it really makes sense to turn the lights off in the room when you're not using them. The kids have a habit of, you got a TV on in this room, a TV on in that room, and you're using electricity. When you become conscientious about how you use energy, you actually are saving yourself money. For example, you could lower your thermostat. This might be a bad thing to say at this time, but you could lower your thermostat down to say 68 degrees or something like that, and it'll save you about 3% on your energy bill.
68 when? During the day, at night, or what?
Or just generally.
Generally.
But that's only good for people that can take that. I mean, if you're a senior citizen or if you have an ailment, of course you don't want to do anything that's going to adversely impact your health. But if you can take it, lower it a little bit, and you're going to save energy, you're going to save on your bill. Things like making sure that there's no blockage on your vents where your heat source is coming out. You can change your filter. A good practice is, you've got a furnace filter, and when you get your Dominion bill, plan to change the filter on a monthly basis when you get your bill. Because what happens is that if you don't change that filter, it accumulates a lot of dust and debris, and it forces your furnace to work harder, which means you're going to end up paying more in terms of your energy bill. Things like that, just commonsensical types of things that we all can do around the house. Another good example is Cox cable or whatever the case might be. They all have converter boxes, or you have hair dryers, or you got cell phone chargers. All of these use what is called phantom power. And essentially what has happened is, even when you or I are at work and none of that stuff is running at home, it is still using power. So if you connect those types of things up to a power strip, you can simply just turn the power strip off, and now that draw, and it adds up over the course of a year, is no longer there, and you're saving money that way as well.
Give that again.
Say you got your converter boxes for your cable, or if it could be satellite, DirecTV. I don't want to plug anyone more so than the other, but all of those use phantom power, meaning that the unit that is there
is running.
It's running the whole time, 24/7, if you don't turn it off. Now, some people would argue that, well, I'll pay those pennies or dollars over a course of a year, because to turn it off, maybe my satellite has to reboot all up again or something like that. So you got to use a little bit of common sense with it. But there are a number of ways in which you can save on your energy bill, and those are just some of the small things that you can do. Of course, you got to have a tight envelope, a tight seal on your windows, and make sure they're caulked properly, door strips and things like that. Make sure you're not heating and cooling the outside of your home.
Gotcha. Very good. Excellent. What is the biggest challenge in your work at Dominion?
Oh, that's a tough question. I would say that one of the bigger challenges that we have as an industry, and not only Dominion but other energy providers, is developing the infrastructure to meet the demand. We all like to go and flick that switch on and everything is all there. But beneath all of that is a lot. You've got generations that's being created. We're either going to be using coal, which we're using less and less of for environmental reasons. You have natural gas. Wind has come into vogue. We have either part or outright ownership of a number of wind farms. We're actually looking at doing a wind farm on the coast of Virginia Beach that we're looking at right now. But each one of those generating sources are happening. That's how you keep that electricity. You can't store electricity. It's dynamic. It's happening constantly, and so you have to keep generating it. And so, because there's more and more demand, for example, in our region, in Loudoun County in particular, there was an article in the Washington Post last week about data centers. Well, data centers are huge facilities that house from floor to ceiling computers and servers that use a tremendous amount of power. There's a direct correlation between the economic vitality of a region and the amount of electricity capacity that it needs. And so what happens, to get to the core of what your question is, what happens is that a lot of people do not want to have substations and transmission lines and utility poles in their communities. I mean, because of aesthetics, because you have to keep the trees trimmed and things like that. So it's always a tightrope trying to make sure that you have sufficient capacity to meet the demand, but at the same time to respect the citizenry, respect people's rights to, the aesthetic value of their homes and properties and things like that. So that is always a problem for us, is that you have to make sure that you've got the structure, the infrastructure is in place and is sufficient to meet the needs. And it's a constant revamping and invigorating your system. You can't just build it and you don't have to worry about it. You have to make sure. And then we're a regulated industry. We're regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, and NERC, another organization. You might remember, Limba, a few years back, I think it was in 2003 or so, right around there, maybe a little bit later than that, we had a blackout, a Northeast blackout. Well, what wasn't really commonly talked about is what caused that Northeast blackout. What caused that Northeast blackout was a tree that came in contact with a transmission line. And transmission lines are the larger, more erector set types of structures that you see mainly in rural areas. Well, when that came in contact with that line, it cascaded on down through the system and caused an outage in multiple states. Wow. The federal government, through NERC, which oversees us, cracked down on electric utilities as a result of that. So, for example, when I talk about tree trimming, we are subject to $1 million a day for every day there is an outage that came as a result of us not keeping our right of way clear of any tree that would come and fall down on our line. So these are the types of things that we are subject to as an industry. We are obligated to serve, and so there are certain things that we have to have in place in terms of our infrastructure, in terms of the full capacity that is needed in order to run the system. And you have experts constantly monitoring these systems, which requires us to upgrade them. When we go to upgrade them, we sometimes run into opposition because people don't want a substation expanded, or they don't want a transmission circuit built in their neighborhood. So it's always a problem, but the power's got to come somewhere, and you just cannot not do it and end up in a situation where we don't have sufficient capacity to meet the demand.
Okay, it's okay, right, excellent. And what would be your biggest win then?
My biggest
win, or the thing the most proud of, the accomplishment you're most proud of?
Well, I can only speak from a personal standpoint. I've only been with Dominion for a little over 12 years, and it's the best company that I've ever worked for. I really like the fact that we are very community conscious, that we're involved in the community. We have a very robust volunteer program where we have hundreds of thousands of hours devoted each year to going out in the community. And for example, we did a project at Bull Run Park several months ago called the Trail Mix, where we had something like 65 of our people out there with earth diggers and the big rocks, and they landscaped it and built a trail and that sort of thing. We do those types of things. We get involved in school. In schools with the kids. We have an educational grants program that we're proud of. We have done things in terms of human services, helped with homeless shelters and free clinics. We had a project that we were focused on free clinics where we dealt with that, and things like that really makes me proud to be a part of the organization. Is try to be as community conscious and give back to the community, and not only in just dollars. I mean, any company can give dollars, but when you give of your time, that's when I think you are really giving, and I'm very proud of that.
Okay, very good. Excellent. So where do you see your company going then, at least your position? Where do you see the next evolution on the Dominion? Where do you see that happening?
Oh, where do I start? I mean, there's a lot of things that are kind of hanging in the balance right now. There is a project that we are very high on that is out of Cove Point, Maryland. Back in about 10 or so years ago, we were in a real crisis in terms of energy. We're subject to the whims and the politics of the Middle East, and we were importing. We decided that we were going to expand a facility that had been laying dormant and import liquefied natural gas, or LNG. And the idea was to import that LNG and then process it and through a distillation process, or bring it back to its natural state, and then distribute that natural gas. Well, what has happened in the interim time is that there's been new developments that have been created, somewhat controversial, called hydraulic fracturing, whereas instead of going down vertically into the ground, people that drill, and we're not in a drilling business, we're in a processing business, and a transportation business, and a storage business, but you drilled vertically in the ground. Now they've developed a process where you can go in and then out, and there's what is called shale gas that is extracted from the substrate, the rock substrate, well underneath the ground. And then that gas has created a boom here in the United States. And it just so happens that our infrastructure is sitting right on top of where that natural gas is in West Virginia, in Ohio, and in Pennsylvania. And so now the hope is that we can grow our economy. When I say our economy, I'm talking about the entire United States economy by taking advantage of that natural resource, by getting that natural. There's another shale play which is called Utica Shale. There's Marcellus Shale, and there's Utica Shale, a completely different formation at a different depth. And what it's done is created this huge amount of natural gas that now, instead of using that Cove Point facility in Maryland to import it and process it and ship it out, we'll bring in the natural gas through our pipeline system primarily, bring it into the Cove Point facility and liquefy it and then export it out. And so that's a major project that we're looking at. I mentioned that we are going to do a trial on wind. That's something that we're working on. We're looking at solar, biomass, which is the use of just natural greenery, wood, or whatever the case might be. We're very much in transitioning from a heavy preponderance of dependency on coal and moving into cleaner fuels to use in order to generate our electricity. So, I mean, when you ask that kind of question, there's a million different things that the company is involved in right now in terms of various projects and that sort of thing.
Would that solve the basic problem you're having, then having enough electricity? Would that help solve that issue?
Well, generating electricity is something that is a continuous process, 24/7, 365.
Gotcha.
So it will, all of these things, the constellation of all of these things will certainly make us more earth friendly in terms of what we're using to generate electricity, and not make us vulnerable to the whim of an economy where, say, one fuel source goes down, and now the bottom has fell out of the organization. To have that diversification that you have using so many different sources to generate your electricity is a good thing, and that's what we're working towards.
Okay. I'm going to take a minute over here. We talked about the breakfast event at the Expo.
Okay.
We host a monthly breakfast event in Fairfax the third Thursday of the month. So that will be on this month. That will be on the 20th of February. It's at 3999 University Drive from 7:30 to 9:30. This time we're having a special celebration. But also put on your agenda our next Expo. That will be on June 20th. We'll have an Expo, the 10th anniversary celebration. That will be at the Stacy Sherwood Community right here in Fairfax. Will be from 8 to 2 o'clock. We'll have 100 exhibitors there and tons and tons of exhibitors. So put that on the agenda. We'd love to have you there. And I hope that Dominion will join us at that Expo.
Well, now that you put me on the spot in front of millions of people, what choice do I have?
A perfect opportunity for you to get into the community,
yes,
through alignment with what you do, and make yourself known and provide information to businesses as well as the people living in the community.
You're so correct. And I'm new to this area. I've only been here, my wife and I, since Memorial Day. And it's a fascinating area to me. I mean, the one is the huge and very impressive diversity of people. I mean, I almost feel like wherever I go, I'm in the United Nations. I mean, there's so much ethnic diversity here, and the traffic. Now, that's a story that we don't have to talk about on the air.
We won't.
But we are both loving it, and I'm anxious to get out and get to meet people, get to know the region, and get a sense of community, because we're still not there yet in terms of getting that sense of community. I think as long as I get out and meet people like yourself and network, then that'll take care of itself as well. But so far, so good.
Okay, well, it's a great area. So just come and join us. Love to have you at the breakfast event. The next one, please come on out on February 20th, as well as the Expo. And I think that you'll love it very much. Thank you very much, folks, for joining in. And as always, have a very productive day. Goodbye. Next time.
This program was brought to you by Organo Gold. Organo Gold is a health and wellness company that provides healthy coffees, teas, and chocolate. All one has to do is consume the available products to get all the available benefits. One can also share these products with others to help them improve their health as well. For more information, call 703-359-5642 or visit the website basilemba.com.